You might remember a couple of weeks ago during Homelessness Week, we spoke to Darren Petty, who was once homeless himself, about his story. But Darren very much turned his life around, and a lot of it was about his physicality, about bodybuilding, and then about jiu-jitsu. Martial arts helped make him the man he is, and he's just returned from the Australian Jiu-Jitsu Championships with a gold medal. Congratulations, Darren. How are you doing?
Thanks very much. I'm okay.
Okay. Are you sore?
I'm okay, everybody. I am sore. I'm very sore from the championships.
Yes. Now we have to break down what your gold medal is. It says male gi black master 3, 100.5 kilograms. So super heavyweight, that's how much you weigh. We get that. All the martial arts are divided up into weight divisions. Male, obvious. Gi, what does the gi part mean?
So that's the uniform. So the gi, the kimono, that's what we wear so as to not rip our clothes when we're grappling, right? So it's, if you've ever seen any martial art ever, you'll notice that they have a white uniform on and the belt, and that's what we wear. It's called a gi.
Okay. Is it gi because some people compete without the gi?
Yeah, there's no gi and gi.
Okay.
Very scientific.
Now, why do you like the gi? Why do you like to have the clothing?
It's more technical. The no gi's faster. I do love no gi, by the way. I love both, and we teach both at Trojan Academy. However, I won this particular title in the gi, and then.
Did you compete in the no gi as well?
I did. I was enrolled, and my back gave out.
Oh,
I'm 42, Joel. I can only do so much.
Okay. What happened to your back?
I've got trouble with L5S1 discs, so I'm in the chiropractor every day, seeing Dr. J down at ChiroLife Kingston, and he is adjusting me 5 days a week. Honestly, that's not even a joke.
Now let's talk about jiu-jitsu. What actually is it?
It's a grappling. Should I say art form or?
Yeah.
Look, it's grappling, and like you said in the preamble, is that it is primarily a ground fighting art. It's every fight starts on the feet, and ends up on the ground. We do stand up, but predominantly it's 90% ground fighting. Same as what you would see in the UFC if you're watching that when they go to the ground. Arm locks, chokes, joint manipulation, that type of thing. Now,
jiu-jitsu, the name, is Japanese, but it's the Brazilian variety that everyone does now, isn't it?
That's right. So the Brazilians took Japanese jiu-jitsu and made it much, much more hardcore in that, breaking arms and legs and choking people unconscious, which is what the Brazilians did to it, and sportified it, turned it into sport and bring us what we've got today, which is, and it's worldwide. It's massive and it's growing. Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, all these guys, they're all into it. They're all doing it. Keanu Reeves, all these type of people getting right into it.
What do you love about it?
For me, 15 years I've been doing jiu-jitsu. I've been the owner and operator of Trojan Academy for 10. I'm standing here right now, leaning on this table, trying to think about what doesn't hurt. However, what I love about it, I absolutely love getting gritty. I love rough. I love fighting. I was a bouncer when I was 20 down here at the Wharf. Shout out to all my bouncer buddies back in the day, Isobar. And I was always, shivers, I shouldn't even go down this path. Anyway, I will. I was always the first person to get in a tussle. And I just absolutely love getting in tussles. And I thought, well, why don't I just go and do this as an art form, as a sport? And I did. And 15 years I've been doing it now. God, I shouldn't go into any of those bouncer stories. Don't even ask me a bouncer story.
But you were bouncing and doing childcare at the same time at one point, weren't you?
Certainly. In 2000, I started at Lady Gowrie Childcare Centre. So through the day I was working with children, and at night I was working with adults down at the Wharf. And people often ask me, how'd you do both those jobs? It's quite strange. And I said, well, it's the same job. 4-year-olds and drunk adults, same thing. You get it.
Now, what does it take to be a champion at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Like I said, 15 years I've been training, 10 years owner and operator of Trojan. I've been training every week for 15 years. Before that, bodybuilding, I trained every day, every week for 8 years. I've been a athlete now for 23 years. To become a champion, I've studied this thing. I've studied jiu-jitsu just the same as I studied bodybuilding, and just the same as anyone would study anything. To become a champion at anything, I think you've got to study. And I certainly do that. I study and I train hard, really hard. And that's where the injuries come in and whatnot. But to become that champion, and it really meant a lot to me. At the age of 42, to become Tasmania's first ever Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt champion just really meant a lot to me through all the study and hard training.
Tell me about study. What are you studying? Are you looking at other people's fights? How do you actually figure that out?
Absolutely. Well, we started with books and magazines, obviously, back in the day, before social media, but now that's developed into, we can switch these phones on right now and study anything and everything instantaneously. So there really is no excuse to be claiming lack of information. The information's out there. You just got to go and get it and apply it. It's one thing I was actually talking to someone today just about that, in that it's one thing to study and it's another thing to put it into action. And one thing that I do a lot of is study, but also put things into action. And that's why I do everything that I do.
Is there a great teacher that you particularly love? Because in martial arts, there's kind of a well-known thing that they call bullshido, which is that there's a certain amount of martial arts that they're not real, and the people teaching them, it's kind of fake.
Sure.
And I say this as someone who's a martial artist myself, and I've seen it and experienced it myself.
Yep.
Who's great? Whose teaching do you look at online and go, this person really knows what they're doing?
Yeah, that's interesting. Rickson Gracie for sure. And just on that, there are a lot of fake martial artists specifically. Even in this state, there's fake Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. However, and that's part of the reason why I broke away and started Trojan Academy 10 years ago, because I wanted to do the real thing. I wanted to coach people the real way. I wanted to offer something that was real and, like I said before, gritty, but also technical, and that's why we're the Trojan Academy's #1 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy in Tasmania, basically. But I study for a long time now, Rickson Gracie.
Because the Gracie family are kind of the founders of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, aren't they?
There you go, Joel. You know a little bit about it. So the Gracies, brought this to us, and we've run with it, and we appreciate them.
You are listening to Afternoons on ABC Radio Hobart and ABC Northern Tasmania. I'm Joel Reinberger. Darren Petty is with us, who's just returned from the Australian Jiu-Jitsu Championship with a gold medal for his weight and class. Is it easy enough to prep for competition here? Do you have enough people your size and skill to actually go up against and build those muscles and build that muscle memory?
Absolutely. I made them. I created these people, I've got people that have been with me now, white to black, white, blue, purple, brown, black, and I've coached them the right way. So when I fight them, they're using techniques that I've taught them, but also they're doing their own studies. My students, they're looking outside the box and looking into the YouTubes and Instagrams and all these video formats. So
do you have one of your students every now and then come to you and having a bout with you and suddenly surprise you with a move you've never seen before?
All the time. Oh my gosh, all the time. At the Derek Hickman, who's standing to my right, Joel right here, is an absolute machine. I don't think he's got me. Maybe he has.
He's putting his hand up in I don't know, boss.
Yeah, maybe. But I've got some phenomenal grapplers. Izzy Simcic, my closest black belt. He is an amazing fella. He's half my size, and we push each other to almost certain death most nights. We'll come up from there bleeding and this type of thing. And certainly I do owe a lot to Izzy for being there with me now for almost 15 years.
But these are guys that you know well. What's it like at a competition like this, that there might be some guy you've never heard of before who's a champion in Western Australia who rocks up to this, you know nothing about him. How do you approach that fight? Are you kind of careful and cautious and test it out, or do you go in hard and try and nail him in the first 5 seconds?
Gotcha. So that's an interesting thing that I can put this to. What we call it in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and both the guys that I fought for this championship were from Sydney. I hadn't fought them before, and what we call it is playing our game. So you go into a match and you're either at the mercy of the person you're rolling against, or you're playing your game, and that's what I went in and did. I went and played my game. I have a very technical guard game where I can manipulate people and throw my legs around their neck and sweep them over and get on top and all this type of thing. Predominantly guard, and just go out there and play my game, and that's what I did. And if you go on my social medias and see the videos of the fights, that's what you'll see. You'll see me dominating.
Darren Petty, you're on the front of the paper because you had an
Yes.
incident in your house. We arranged this well before someone decided to
Let's get into it.
invade your house. What the heck happened at your place?
Right, so Monday night we got back from the championship to here, so upstairs, downstairs, my car's parked downstairs in our garage, and we heard help, help, help. Not like that, like help, 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 and the horn honking in the car and the lights turning on off and on, and I went downstairs and just had a look at the situation and thought, gee, if I go in there, it could be anything or anyone, you know, in there doing whatever. I soon ascertained to the fact that he'd broken into the house, got into my car, running from the cops, I learnt later, and was hiding in my car, trying to attempt to steal the car to get away. Now, I ascertained that he wanted to get my attention, or the owners of the house attention, which is me, to get us to come down and then say, give us the keys, and rough us into giving him the keys. So I stood outside, called the cops and said, I'm going to stay on the phone with you until you get a cop car here, just in case this guy comes out with a gun or a knife. Stood there, the cops arrived, they stormed the house, filled my downstairs area of my house with pepper spray, thanks very much. But I will say that the Tasmanian police handled it beautifully. It was just remarkable the way they handled it. I had no T-shirt on, and I was just standing there sort of pumped, like, he's in there, let's go. And they dealt with me pretty well. Fortunately, didn't think I was the perpetrator.
You know,
they knew who I was.
Shirtless man, you know.
Yeah. The cops said, oh, Darren, is that you? I said, yeah, it's me, let's go. Went in there and pepper sprayed him and put him on the ground, and then... you know, they'd said to me that he'd carjacked a few cars that night, etc. Ended up at my place in my car. Of all the cars, I was saying to the guys the other day, it's like Teslotto, but the wrong Teslotto. You don't want to win that Teslotto. Look, if he had have came upstairs to a lot of people are saying, why didn't you deal with him, or did you deal with him? And I say, look, if he had to come into my house, he would have been in trouble, really big trouble, because I can't handle myself, because I've spent my life, dedicated my life to this art of being able to handle myself physically. And I'd suggest that to everyone, to start getting into something, somewhere, to be able to handle yourself, as you know, Joel. Now, they put him on the ground, and at the end, I don't know, 30 minutes later, whatever it was, the police said to him, mate, the owner's here, do you want to apologise to him? And he said, for what? The perpetrator said, for what? He locked me in here. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. He's going to start a story about that. Anyway, I just sort of, you know, racked my brain on the spot and just said, what should I say to this fella, you know? I could threaten him and say, if I ever see you again, you're going to be in big trouble, yada, yada. But I didn't. I just said, look, man, you can do better. I looked him in the face. He looked up to me and said, sorry, big fella, because he saw me. And I said, mate, you can do better than that. You know, you just think about what you're doing and try and do better. Then he got in the back of the paddy wagon and started kicking and screaming and carrying on about the pepper spray. But look, I thought to myself, I could threaten him, but everybody probably threatens him, or he's probably in all sorts of threatening situations, and perhaps what I say to him now might affect him. So I don't know. I just said what I said to hopefully inspire him, and that's what I do. That's what I try and do at this age, at 42 years old, after everything I've done, is trying to motivate and inspire people to do better. And that's what I'm doing at my event on October 14th at the RSCV building, that you can get tickets to now at upgradelife.com.au. I'll be speaking to people to try and inspire them and motivate them to do better in their life. You don't have to be a carjacker to receive my motivation. Anyone can, and I'll be at that event to do that. But look, that's what happened on the night, and look, I really do hope, honestly, that he catches something of what I said to him and just maybe does better. I don't know.
Yeah, the world would be a better place if he did.
Maybe I should have slapped him about. I don't know.
I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you left it to the professionals and didn't get yourself involved.
Tas Police, wonderful.
Darren Petty, great to talk to you. Thank you kindly for coming in.
Thank you.